Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. And you know it's about to go down when the hat goes backwards. You know what I'm saying? Sitting across from me is the one and only Black Tony Romo. You know what I'm saying? He goes by the name of Mr. Logical. I am 2-5. This is Sports Reports is Ordered. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. We are everywhere that you get your podcast. Have a liquid death in your hand. Say less, say more. We're going to break it all down. You know, free agency is still going on. LeBron James has made the league stop everything. So let's get into it. Mr. Logical,
right.
Here's a question.
I'm
you know
listening.
what I'm saying? And I'm going to use this as a temperature check. You know what I'm saying? Because it's been a few weeks since we've been up on these microphones together.
Yeah, you know, everybody need a little vacation, you heard?
So let me do it like this. Why the league still acting like this is 2010, 2018, and we got to stop everything to see where LeBron James is going to sign?
Because it's a big deal.
It's not.
It's a big deal. Just as big as Ronaldo or Messi or...
It's not.
It is.
I mean,
It's
from a
big
name
deal.
standpoint, sure,
Yeah,
but
that's the thing. That's all you have right now. I think the Knicks championship is still ringing bells. New York City, you know, Jay-Z had his concert over the weekend. That was a debacle and a half. Shout out to StubHub for the refund, though. Yeah, I was one of those people locked out the other night. Yeah, me and my son. We were one of those 10,000 people that got locked out for a few hours. I think it's a big deal because it's LeBron. And as long as it's LeBron, and it's not like, granted, yes, 42 is not 27-year-old LeBron, but it's not like he's 11, 4-4, still trying to hold on like Karl Malone did towards the end. I think he's a viable. I think he can get you 60-plus games. You limit his minutes. You put him on a team. Like, personally, I think Philly.
what up,
I
Riz?
think Philly be cool. I don't know about championship because it still has to mesh. It still has to make sense. But for me, selfishly, that's 41 home game opportunities
for you
that
to
I
get locked out.
for me to get there. Philly don't lock out. Philly hires real security. The Yankees hire people who couldn't stop a booger with a tissue. But yeah, so that's 41 games. And I want to see the balance of Embiid. Does Embiid now just go ahead and say, you know what? I'm only playing 55 games this regular season. I'm going to really just coast. I'm not like, if I feel whatever, I'm going to let JB, LeBron, Maxey, and Edgecombe just go play. And do you switch it up when you let Embiid play and let LeBron sit? Maybe on these road trips, 4 or 5 game stretch out in Cali. Maybe he plays the Golden State, the LA games, but he doesn't play the Sacramento or the Portland game. You know, it's like, so I think it's interesting from that aspect. I don't know what Nick Nurse is going to be able to do because, you know, sometimes when LeBron comes in, he does overshadow the coach.
So,
but I think that'd be a great location for him.
So I got a couple of thoughts here. You know what I mean? First of all, let me start with the Bay. You know what I'm saying? Let's start there. Because there's a guy out there by the name of Wardell Stephen Curry who I'm just asterisking everything. You know what I mean? Like, he makes the NBA finals no fault of his own. Somebody tried to rip Kevin Love's arm out the socket. Kyrie gets hurt in overtime in game 1. You go down 2-1, get a pass for it, win the NBA title. You come back the next year, best regular season in history, 73-9. Then Harrison Barnes messes it all up. And then it goes, you ain't shit without your homeboys. So then they go beg Kevin Durant to come, get 2 championships off of that, fall apart once him and Clay get hurt. And then they showed up and won another title against Boston that should be respected. But there ain't no way in hell that I'm going to sit here and stand by and let you go get Kevin Durant and then years later go get LeBron James. And I don't think the Warriors are going to win a championship. But let's just say that they do and think that you're going to enter my top 10 of all time acting like that and getting all the passes because everybody loves you. So ain't nobody going to call you out on your BS. So that's Steph Curry.
That's a conversation you and I had a long time ago.
Now, Miami, you know what I mean? I don't know how LeBron and Giannis looks together. That just sounds weird to me. Now, granted, like you said, this ain't 27-year-old LeBron, so it's a little bit different. He brings a certain basketball IQ element to the team that you wouldn't otherwise have. So they went out and got Tim Hardaway. There's rumors that they might trade Jovic for Klay Thompson. Don't like that either. You know what I mean? But, so at that standpoint, what is Miami? Because I know you in particular,
I got them.
Happened, you thought they were like a 6 seed or play in, or so. How does that change for you if LeBron goes to Miami?
I think LeBron goes to Miami. I think he'll play as hard as he can to squeeze him into the 5th seed. Maybe the 4 if they're lucky. I just don't think they have the depth. They don't have the youth. Those are 2 things in the current NBA you have to have. If you don't have great depth, you got to have youth with, some explosiveness to it. I just don't think. I think Giannis and LeBron.
What I need depth for? I got a guy that can get you 83.
I think it'll look fine. I think LeBron 25 feet from the hoop and let Bam and Giannis kind of do their thing. But ultimately, when those guys go to the bench for talent reasons, age reasons, resource conservation reasons, you got to be able to put somebody in while these guys really get a break. You can't put, you wouldn't want to put Giannis on the bench first and then have LeBron play through the first quarter and then bring Giannis back in the second quarter, let LeBron sit for a few minutes. You need a different set of players in that rotation. I don't think they have the depth for it. And I'm pretty sure if I'm in LeBron's camp, I'm looking at the same thing. On top of the fact that I don't think your relationship with Pat Riley, I don't think his Miami years, if you ask LeBron, I know he got his first championship there, but I don't think if he had to weigh the 4 sectors of his career, the first run in Cleveland, Miami, second run in Cleveland, and now with the Lakers, I think that championship run, that frame with Miami, might be 3rd or 4th behind.
So hold up. Stay there for a quick second. So you brought up his relationship with Pat Riley. How does that change or differ from his relationship with Daniel Gilbert?
Because that was home. That was the team that drafted him. That's the team right up the street from him. And the talent that they had available in Cleveland was enough for him to probably deal with going back to Cleveland. If they had a similar kind of cash of talent in Miami, I think he would probably justify, you know what? I'm a businessman. I'm a grown man. I'm a player. They have assets. I can bury the hatchet with Pat Riley because I think I can help them win or they can help me win or vice versa. Cleveland, I think he had that. But
is Pat Riley going to let him bring them cookies?
Nah. Like, yo, the way Dwayne Wade tells that story, it's really like, it was like, we know it's not about the cookies. We know, like, we've all been in a relationship that's kind of gone sideways. It wasn't about the fact that you wanted to stay at your house that night. It was like, you were sick of going over to her spot anyway. And it's like, you know what? You could be mad at me, but I'm not getting up and coming over there because I'm sick of dealing with you. And I've been dealing with you for this long, dealing with this BS. And same thing. I don't think it'd be squashing on top of that. Like I said, I don't think if you have Philly or Miami on your board, you pick Miami over Philly. Like if those are your options, even throw Cleveland in. If you have Cleveland, Miami, and Philly,
so
I don't think you pick Miami over the other two.
So I think it depends a little bit. I do agree with you that Philly is in a better position. You know what I mean? And me and El Residente was talking about this offline right before the show, you know, from the standpoint of if you take Embiid off that Philly team, you know, let's just assume he's going to miss games. That team very functionally looks like a LeBron team, a LeBron-style team. You know, like you got Jaylen Brown to play that D-Wade kind of role. You know, you got Maxey playing the Kyrie kind of, you know, role. But he didn't have Wade and Kyrie at the same time. You know what I mean? And he gets to be the conductor to some degree. So, like, that is a very good team. You know, just
LeBron could be Kevin Love in that scenario.
Right. That's exactly right.
A 20 and 10 Kevin Love.
But if I'm LeBron and I'm thinking about this functionally, and maybe I'm just putting too much into this, because I know that you go to LA for other reasons besides basketball as well. You know, the endorsements, all those type of things like that. So I imagine that South Beach might have an edge on Philly in that category, even though Philly is a big city. Like, I think that Miami...
He's him, so I don't...
You think it's pretty indiscriminate?
Yeah, I think, and if he had to do business in Philly, business in Miami, or whatever reason, a private jet out of Philly is 3.5 hours in Miami,
So with Miami, he also has the fortune of he knows Spo. Now, granted, you know, this is not the same Spo that he had the first time around. You know, this is a Spo that made it to the finals without him. They didn't win, but he made it twice without LeBron. So this is not a function of I had you, so I'm successful. You know, you also had, you know, they were a 3-point shot by Jimmy Butler away from another finals. So, correct. You know, and now, you know, you could argue, I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily making that argument, but you can argue Giannis is the best player in the league.
Everybody else on that team with Jimmy Butler was 20-something.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else on this Miami team, 30-something. Post-injury, tail end of careers. And if you try to throw LeBron in that mix, it only makes sense because they won't unretire the number 6. So it's not like he's going to come back wearing that jersey. It would just be symbolic. It would be just another year of him playing basketball at whatever level he can maintain at 42. I'm just right, I'm not sold on the Miami stock just because we have seen what is working in the NBA, what the transition looks like, and stacking a team with the big 3 when they're not really compatible. It's not as if one's a dynamic point guard, one's a dynamic wing defender and scorer. So what does Golden State look like? Big.
So what does Golden State look like with LeBron?
I think it looks a lot like it looks less productive because I just think that Golden State has spent so many years like avoiding developing talent and just moving guys around, hoping that they could rekindle. Like I told you, that 2022 championship should have been. They should have taken a book out of a page out of the 90s, the last dance, and just call it. Like I'd rather call it with the championship, break the team up, and try to come back. I think they held on to it a little too long after that, and now adding LeBron would just be an extension of that. That seems it's time for them to transition. Like there's no,
So
I don't say there's no hope, but it's just like they're just going to be playing basketball next year, hoping to get the 39 wins, hoping that their older player makes it through the year. It's just not a. I don't think it's a viable location.
Well, one of my earlier videos when we started this thing was that the empire was over. And that was 3 years ago now. And but my problem with Golden State is, they brought back Al Horford, who is about the same age as LeBron. They brought back Porzingis, who is an injury risk himself. Jimmy Butler's coming off of injury, and now he's been in trade rumors. So I wonder down the line if there's some tension there, the way that we know Jimmy Butler. Then, what does Draymond do if you bring in LeBron? So you might have some good-looking basketball as far as Steph and LeBron playing off of each other, but I just don't see where Draymond fits into that, because usually I talk about how he's the one that kind of initiates the offense, set things up. Like he's basically Charles Oakley at that point.
I think you can still do that with LeBron. You just run an addition to that action where you get LeBron involved in that pick and roll, or instead of having Steph just run around crazy, maybe he only has to run around 2 times to get the ball and get an open look versus running base sideline to sideline, running across the baseline, and then coming out and getting that screen. Maybe
if that's what you're going to do, though, you might as well go all out and get Clay again.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's like you had the stock when it was $90 on your Robinhood. You had it. You had the $700-800 extra available to buy the stock then, and you didn't. And now that stock is $180. Now you're thinking, like, should I do it? No, you shouldn't do it. You missed out. That opportunity is gone. They had their opportunity to do a rebuild. They had their opportunity to get better for the future. You can't do that getting guys who got drafted in the early to mid 2000s onto your team.
They held on to Kuminga way too long.
They treated Kuminga as if he was incapable of playing basketball. Like he couldn't take the reins. I think the Steph, I don't know what his money was like in 2022, but I bet you probably could have got the Lakers on the phone, and then that LeBron Steph Curry dream could have happened then. But you probably could have fleeced them for Rui,
which is ironic.
Austin Reeves. You probably could have got all of their young core out of LA to go to Golden State for Steph, and you could have been building around Kuminga, even if you kept Draymond for an extra year. But he wouldn't be really that useful to you. So you move those pieces and you build around these young guys post-championship. Your fans are still happy because you won a championship, and they would understand. But now it's like, now everyone's hoping. Now everyone's hoping that they buy that stock and it just rises again. But it's like, it's unlikely because of the parameters of what you're dealing with.
Which is ironic because allegedly the Lakers are in the business of trying to trade for Kuminga, so that's funny too. So what does LeBron look like in Cleveland? Because I think that's the best fit.
I don't know, because I think he takes defensive possessions off physically, but still directs people. You can have him kind of like passing off, because let's keep it real. Like, he's not chasing some 24-year-old guy from one wing to the next wing. He's handing them off every single time at the free throw line. Like, hey, you got him. And then he slides the other way. You can't have James Harden out there not following those directions and guys are getting easy layups. Because it's only, like, if you want him to play, 20 points, 7-8 rebounds, 6-7 assists offensively, he's not going to be able to chase these guys off the block or chase these guys around. He's going to have to be able to have guys who can stay defensively. And for some reason, Cleveland's hell-bent on getting rid of Jared Allen. That seems like he comes up in conversation all the time.
Well, I know that they were talking about Mobley for Jaylen Brown at one point, but it sounds like they didn't really want to move off of Mobley. So I think one of the two would have to go between Mobley and Allen. Allen probably fits better with LeBron at this stage
because he can just funnel. He can funnel his guy to that. I don't, unless there's a thing with Mobley wanting like something that we don't know about. I just don't know how you can make that work, even with LeBron on the floor. I think a starting lineup of James, LeBron, Donovan, Mobley, and Jared, I think it works.
See, the only problem that I see there is that with LeBron, to some degree, you turn him into Draymond in that situation. But to your point, he doesn't have that defensive prowess at this stage in his career. I think having Harden, it helps both because one, LeBron doesn't have to necessarily dominate the ball, even, trying to set everything up. But also you have that break where Harden doesn't have to pound the ball and play all these extra minutes during the regular season, that maybe he has a little something left in the playoffs. The interesting component of it to me is Mitchell, especially now that he's gotten paid, like how does him and LeBron work? Because he brings that weight kind of function.
30, let him go for 31, 5 and 5.
Right. But can he do it? Can he do it without going 11 for 30?
Well, if you don't require him to set up anything, and you let James and like the two James Harden, LeBron James set it up for him, yeah, let him go first 31. Let him go get his points. Listen, we don't need you to initiate the offense. We don't need you to bring the ball up. We need you to go get buckets when it's time to get a bucket. But once again, it puts, I think the stress that puts on LeBron and the expectations. I think the energy in Philly makes sense. I think the energy that comes off the bench in Philly makes more sense. I think the youth and the hungriness of the young starters makes sense. I think the stability and the intellect of Jaylen Brown makes sense. And I think just Embiid being he's one of a few 7-foot guys in the league that can score the way he scores. Like him, Jokic. I think to some degree AD is in that space, but that's like it's not really many guys that can do what he does. So I think if you can slide LeBron in there, I don't know what the money looks like. I don't know if he plays for $15 million. I don't know if he plays for 17.
Well, I know if it's Cleveland, they would probably have to move some pieces. They would probably have to move like a Max Strus, to free up a little bit. That's a guy you definitely need. And that's why Cleveland can't make that deal, because you move Max Strus. LeBron can't give you what Max Strus gives you as far as like the energy, the effort, the shooting. Picking up a Cade Cunningham.
Just the role player mindset. And like I say, we talked about this when we talked about Reds. He was like, who can you get that's better than LeBron James? It's not that Max Strus is better than LeBron. It's just that Max Strus will pick up the extra bags. He'll do the extra thing because he's a role player.
Yeah.
Whereas like LeBron's probably not going to do that because of the hierarchy of basketball.
Okay, and we'll talk about the Lakers here in a minute, but before we get there, so the trade between the Toronto Raptors and the Los Angeles Clippers is on hold. So no movement for Kawhi. So it sounds like, oh yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
He'll get it squashed. He won't know why.
So it sounds like
$600,000 payment, like Boosie paid him, and he'll get it squared away.
So it sounds like Toronto's concern is that the NBA informed them that they would be off or on the hook, I should say, for any fines or things like that come with Kawhi, since he would be a part of their team, which doesn't make sense because all the stuff happened in LA, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, you know what I mean? If Kawhi, so this is my thought behind it, just in a, what you say, keep it simple, like in a so in the most simplistic way. I don't know why the league didn't come to send out some kind of memo to all the teams to say Kawhi Leonard is under investigation. Like don't make any moves for him until this investigation concludes. These are the potential punishments that, if there are punishments, this is what we're looking at from the standpoint.
Imagine that's some kind of union.
It's probably some kind of collusion or something, but
I think it's probably a violation.
But this is the way that I'm looking at it. If I'm the Raptors, outside of you're going to hold me liable for something. So let's just hypothetically say you're suspending Kawhi 10 to 15 games because of this.
Yeah.
He gonna miss that anyway. Load management, injury. Like, okay, I can live with that. Now, if you're suspending him for a whole season, which I don't think they would, but if they did, that's when you kind of get into the, okay, I don't want to make this trade because now I'm not going to have a functional piece of what I think is going to bring me a championship. So I'm not going to play that game. But that's where you don't make the trade in the first place or allow the trade to happen.
That should have been vetted out. First of all, the Raptors had to know that it was something had to come of it. It should have expected some kind of resolution, unless they were given some kind of information saying like, hey, talk to the league. This is going to be resolved by August 1st. So we can get into the league year, however they worded that conversation, and you pressed on. But if I'm the NBA, I let the trade go through, and if I punish them, the Raptors, you'll just lose a player for 10 to 12 games, and the Clippers, you'll have to pay the fine. I mean, the Clippers have the richest owner in the league. I'm pretty sure he has a few shekels to the side where he can make that happen. So if they're willing to make the trade and agreeing to that, then that's fine. But if there's no real investigation, or if they haven't really come to the determination that something was violated, then you're just spinning your wheels. And that's not fair to Kawhi or his camp to make him just sit there. All right, we got some technical difficulties on the rebound, But yeah, so while we're here and nobody else here, I was one of those people, one of those thousands of people that was stuck outside. I'm back. I'm back, man. Barry Bonds hitting these homers. Yeah. So, shout out to StubHub. Send your boys refund back. But yeah, it was messy. And don't believe the hype. Those gates were locked before people pulled them open. They locked those gates beforehand. I don't know what the reason was then, but it definitely was because people were storming, because those gates were all locked. You look at the video on Twitter, the gates were locked. Somebody just figured out a way to get their hand in there and get that one open, and a handful of people ran in. But it was just logistically a nightmare. They didn't communicate with the fans. There was no emails from Ticketmaster. There's no updates from Yankee Stadium. It just was information that they were sharing between NYPD and the Yankee organization. And rumor has it Hove was saying, I'm not doing this. And then he finally came out to address the crowd. So all in all, it was a good attempt. Me and my son wanted to see, Hove in Yankee Stadium, but it didn't work out. But I did get a nice little ride to the Bronx. And it is what it is. Such is life. But yeah. So that's proof to Yankee Stadium that either y'all got to ramp up your security in order to hold these kind of events, or to stick to baseball and stick to your occasional college football game. It's not your wheelhouse to hold concerts. Let Madison Square Garden take care of that. And you stay out of the concert business, because you did it pretty poorly. football stadium can have concerts. They have the infrastructure for it. Their stadium is built for it. The entrances, the logistics of operating football stadium and a concert, they have it locked down. Yankee Stadium, nah, yeah, I don't have it. That's not your bag. It's not what you do, Johnny. Jazzo stores, Jazzo album stores. Y'all heard of them before. Get this update from Mike. Stand by.
Here I go. But
right. Yeah, I just was telling everybody about the escapades at the Jay-Z concert and how Yankee Stadium should just stop trying to have concerts. Yeah, man, they had me. We got there. We get there. We're getting in a couple of lines. I see security. Me and my son trying to make our way through, and then I'm looking at the gates, and it's like seas, like waves of people walking this way, and people coming back this way, and I'm like, "Yo, so there's no gate open down there?" They were like, "Nah, it's something open down here." I'm like, nah. I looked up, I looked around, I was like, all the gates were locked. The Ticketmaster scanners were behind the gate. The security things were turned off. Like they just abandoned ship. Everybody tucked tail and ran inside the stadium. Then somebody breached the gate. Like somebody got one of the gates open because they just closed them suddenly. There was no announcements. And Yankee Stadium, we'll get back to sports in a second, but Yankee Stadium is like a coliseum. So the second level opens up to the point where there's like balconies and you can stay in there. They could have had somebody with a megaphone just right there, just making announcements. Hey, we're going to let people in, or we're not letting people in, or people need to back up, or we need to get more security. We could have been getting updates, but instead it just was like secret conversations were happening. It's like, yo, it's already almost 11 o'clock. It's supposed to be a curfew of a sound curfew of 11 o'clock in New York. It's like concerts have to be wrapped up. So we sat out there, we waited, tried, and then my son was like, you want to go? I'm like, you know what? We tried, so we left.
You know what they say, man, politics as usual. But
I think Madani made the call. Madani was like, nah, the show must go on.
Yeah, so we were talking about Toronto and the Raptors making the trade for Kawhi Leonard. And so now I don't know what happens, because now you got to at least establish, and maybe they have in back channels, but you have to at least establish this is the timeline that we're trying to conclude the investigation. Because now LeBron's about to make his move, like we were just talking about. Now this Kawhi thing going on. So what if Toronto just decides, all right, we renege, we're pulling out of this. I don't know if he can go back to the Clippers per se, because they still got to try to sign Mathurin. They already brought in Rui Hachimura. So at some point, Kawhi wasn't in the plan. So now is there a mystery team out there for Kawhi? I brought up during the draft, could Golden State, could that be the spot for Kawhi? So if you can't get LeBron, he ends up somewhere else. Could Kawhi be that kickback? Or is this thing just stuck? And once they suspend him or whatever they decide they're going to do, the league is just going to go trade approved now, Toronto. He's going to miss 10 games.
If I'm the NBA, I want the least amount of resistance possible. I want to get it resolved. I want to set a date for that resolution. And then I want to give each team their opportunity to move into the season on a level playing field, on as level playing field as possible, considering the circumstance going forward. I think it'd be unfair to them to keep holding this over their head. Training camp starts August, September. Guys are coming back into the building. If it's not resolved and the guys don't know who's going to be there, who's going to be what, if I'm going to be, the guys that got traded to the Clippers and kind of moved because of that, and then the guys who ended up on the Clippers because the Clippers were able to free up some cap space because, so it's like all of these Venn diagrams of probabilities. If I'm the NBA, I want to get it resolved as soon as possible. Even if the public doesn't think the punishment is enough, who cares? Like I heard a line from Rick and Morty. It was like, your boos don't bother me. I know I've seen what you cheered for.
Well,
So
but at this point, what are they investigating? What are they waiting on? Like you either know that something happened or it didn't.
maybe it's a situation where it's happened more. Like one time I deployed to Iraq and everybody got overpaid their per diem, right? So many people got overpaid their per diem. Instead of fixing it all, they just say, you know what? You got it. So maybe so many teams have done this that they're going like, you know what? Maybe the language wasn't clear in the CBA or whatever we bargained on. From here forward, this is the punishment for these kind of unfeathered, unsubstantiated bonuses and the kind of clandestine kind of things they're trying to do. And then you move from there. But it's probably a situation like that. Because I figure it's a copycat league. So they got that information from somewhere. Like they weren't the team to come up with
that's just like the Vikings and the Chargers had their own spy gate, but nobody cared because they wasn't winning shit. But but also with that in mind, though, my biggest concern about it, or my biggest thought about it, is like, what you gonna do? Just find the damn near trillionaire insignificant amount of money? Like, where's Ballmer's punishment and role in this? Because if I'm looking at this objectively, just like
whatever the fine is pocket change.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm thinking of, like, are we at a point where, and I know that this won't happen, but could you theoretically take the team?
Nah, because it's doing to make that much money. You've made some shady deals. You didn't make a bunch of honest deals. You didn't make a bunch of deals where like it was, this is on the up and up. To accumulate that kind of money, you did some nefarious stuff. So there's not what can they do? Even if they took the team, he still owned the arena. He's still going to profit off the team when he sell it for $10 billion.
That's
it's
fine.
What are you doing? Like,
Donald Sterling made a profit. Robert Sarver made a profit. That's fine.
Yeah, but those guys did something that was like, terrible.
Well, think about it this way. This is where I'm coming from with this.
They hid some money in some other.
I'm sure they did.
Trees.
I'm sure they did. But this is also,
if they actually burned down a rainforest to say that it was like this is where the money really went, then that'd be pretty fucked up.
But this is also a league that's coming off of people going to jail, for gambling situations, and coaches like Chauncey Billups under FBI investigation. So this is bigger than the Clippers. This is bigger than Ballmer, but those are punishments that are being handed out by law enforcement. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to regulate your league. Like, I don't want to get back into the argument, but it's like the tanking thing, right? Like, I think you guys are doing this. I got to do something about it. So now I got to make it to where I agree with you that they're not the only team doing something along these lines. Now I got to make sure the rest of y'all don't continue to do it or don't want to do it.
And that's where the fine comes in. Because if you levy, for lack of a better word, punishment and make him sell the team or so forth and so on, and then it comes out that the Bulls did it, the Knicks did it, the Heat did it, are you going to make all these owners? You're probably not. So they were hiding money to pay their star player. You find them, and then you move on. The owners have all the leverage here. And
they are because they're Adam Silver's boss, more or less.
Yeah, they pay him. So, like, I understand what Rez is saying. Like, hey, if you extrapolate this across, the entire league, it could get out of control. But when you think about the owners and what's actually happening and what is alleged to happen, it's just it's just hidden money. It's breaking a rule, but it's not breaking a morally ethical rule. It's like it's breaking a financially ethical rule, which is the gray area that these guys navigate in. That's how they get that kind of money. You don't get that kind of money by selling lemonade for $1 and turning a 75-cent profit, and that's all you did. Like that's not how it happens. Like that's good people. Like you didn't do all these. You didn't do a bunch of great things to make that kind of money. You did a lot of bullshit on the low. This is just something that's part of it. They're gonna slap a little fine on them, and that's gonna be the end of it.
Yeah, well, I think that like
the owners like the salary cap. Don't let the owners fool you. They like the salary cap because that's the excuse for not paying guys.
Well, that's where I think that I don't know. Like I don't know, and like I said, maybe I'm thinking about this too deeply, but I feel like the NBA is at a certain crossroad at this point. There's just a lot going on. We're talking about the integrity of the game, not this situation, but we're talking about the integrity of the game with the tanking, the gambling. Like we got players going to jail. You know what I mean? And people like Terry Rozier about to get in trouble. And then then you tie something like this on top of it. How's it different than college football? You know what I mean?
Because one thing is a collectively bargained rule, and one thing is a federal law. We can look at the severity and be like, why aren't they treated the same way? Well, one's not a law. One's not a law violation. So that's the part we gotta like. But
there's a rule. But there's a rule here. Like they're obviously investigating it. Like so, there's something afoot.
It's a rule. It's a rule violation versus a federal law violation. So comparing a player that's being investigated by the FBI for gambling has state and federal laws attached to it. We can't extrapolate that rule breaking to law breaking. It's not the same thing. Granted, yes, I know laws are technically rules, but those aren't on the books. You can only argue legally what's on an actual law book. If circumventing the salary cap is not a violation of the law, does it tear at different people are allowed to play different rules? That's a matter of fact. We can't speak about this as if it's not a reality of the situation, but coupled with the fact that it's not a law violation. So Malik Beasley getting his friend and point shaving and trying to circumvent tax code and laws and gambling laws, all these laws that are in place, is not the same as you circumventing the NBA salary cap agreement. Yes, I understand that the magnitude, one, is probably more impactful considering you're dealing with millions of dollars, and these players who were gambling were probably only dealing with a few 100,000, $1 million tops. I don't even think Beasley or like Jonte Porter like really making a lot of money off these things. I think Terry Rozier lost way more money than he even profited off of that.
Definitely, but that goes back to the point of then why we wasting this time investigating, why we blocking trades, like because Shams came out a little bit ago and said that basically we're looking at a potential. He's saying that we're looking at a potential voiding of his contract, potential suspension, a season-long suspension. Right. But hold on. But this is my point though. So we're going to punish the dude that accepted the money, but not the dude that gave the money?
I imagine that both will happen. So if Kawhi gets a punishment and Ballmer doesn't, then I'll be on board with both what you and Rez are saying. But I'm talking about it from a legal standpoint and an ethical standpoint. They violated the rule of the NBA salary cap, not the law of California.
No. I'm with you. So but what I'm saying is Kawhi's getting all the punishment though. Like, nobody's talking about what's going to happen with Ballmer. I brought that up.
I think I'm going to assume that the organization has to take some kind of fine considering their people drafted this contract. Subsequently, the NBA people who review these contracts should have also caught this. So I think the blame pie is going around. I'm going to go 50% to Ballmer because he owns a team. And then trickle it down to everybody else involved, they can take the rest of that 50%. But like,
So
he's got to get fined.
So riddle me this: if Kawhi gets suspended for a season, and I know it's not the same, but I'm just asking a question. If Kawhi gets suspended for a season,
that's a good point, Rez.
Is it worth suspending Ballmer for a season? Is that a thing? Does it affect anything?
You can't suspend an owner. He's still on the team.
Well, then you got to take the team. That's all I got. That's all I got. You know what I mean? Anyway,
I don't think the severity is. I guess I'm not at that level of severity as you guys are. I think you guys are.
Well, that's because it doesn't affect you. Like, I'm just a fan, right?
Even as a fan, like, to me,
I'm just a fan, not like Kendrick was talking about. But but from that standpoint of like the NBA, like Silver's got to lay hammers, man. That's where we are in his tenure. Like David Stern, like damn well, like if David Stern was here right now, you know what I'm saying, we would have already had a decision. We would have already had punishments, like all kinds of stuff. And I'm not saying that to disparage Adam Silver.
Times have changed and the money's gotten crazy, and the love of money is the root of all evil. That's what that's what say. People say the love of money is the root of all evil. Like if you just love it. Not just money is the root of all evil. And that it's unfortunate, but I'm just honest in my just basic logical thinking. There's a far stretch from circumventing the NBA salary cap and being like just overtly racist and just a stain on the on your league. I don't think Ballmer is going to be viewed as a stain on the league by the masses if they get fined. They didn't win anything. I see if they won. I see if they were on like this 3 years, like just repeat.
But you can't have the Wild Wild West because eventually. Well, you can't have the Wild Wild West because eventually somebody will win, and then if you do something about it in the vein of they won, then it comes back to why didn't you do it? It's like when we talk about these flagrant fouls, right? Like
if we cross that bridge, we cross that bridge.
Like who was it? Was it Dylan Brooks that
you can't punish someone for something that, as of right now, has not been a going theme in the league. Like you can't be like, you're the first person we're gonna take everything from you. It's just that's not how anything.
That's what they did with Donald Sterling.
There was more things that came along with that, and his own personal history came along with that, and he just was.
He had that history up until they did that. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
I don't think Kawhi Leonard having a secret amount of money being funneled to his account is a bad look for the league. I don't think the Minnesota fans are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe they let the league do that. But
okay. So we're going to wrap this up and move on. But let me ask you a quick question before we do that. So was Reggie Bush getting a house and all that shit a bad look for college football?
Well, that's apples to pears, kind of a
maybe.
But the NCAA had a rule in place. Reggie
well,
Bush
the NBA obviously does. Like this is
so
what we're doing.
You get punished for the rule. You don't lose everything over one strike.
I'm not saying lose.
When do we do that? Like
it depends on what the infraction is.
If the infraction is simply you funneled $8 million more to him, you don't lose your team for that. Like that to me, that's a bridge too far.
If you can lose your team for not wanting Magic Johnson at your game, you could lose a team for circumventing the salary cap.
But we all knew it was bigger than that. We knew the players were going to strike. Yeah, if every player
they weren't going to do shit
and took their jerseys,
all they did was turned their shirts inside out. They wasn't going to do shit. The same way that people thought that the NFL was going to like implode over Kaepernick. Like, you know what I'm saying? They wasn't going to do shit.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's that big of a. Yeah, I understand. Listen, I understand what you guys are saying. I'm not arguing against what you're saying. I'm simply saying one thing is a rule that they broke, that they have There's a process in place when this happens. There's already a fine in place. That's what I'm saying. It's like we want to make the punishment way more harsh. There's already a punishment in place.
Final word from me on this. Final word. I just don't believe in punishing the beneficiary and not punishing the enabler. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, but, that was. But like I said, I believe that they should. I believe that they should punish Ballmer. If there's a fine that comes out, he should get his fine.
All right. So now that we got a chance to reunite, because it's been a few weeks, we weren't here. We didn't do a show. Well, I did a show, but we didn't do a show together when the Jaylen Brown trade went down. So let's get your reaction. What does Mr. Logical think about this trade?
I don't know. I'm trying to think, how badly did he make these people feel about being less intelligent than him on a daily basis?
Okay.
Like, it had to be one of those things where every time something was brought up, he would just correct them. Like, no, actually, that's not true. The Hubble telescope only does this. Or something like to the point where it's like, we're willing to give you up for a guy that just got suspended for a quarter of the season last year for PEDs. Like, how bad was it there to where that was a deal? I thought the deal was bad. I thought it was also ironic that they trade him to a good team. Just the whole thing just reeks of ego. Like, an excessive amount of ego on each side of the table that just kind of culminated in one of the most rash trades I can imagine. I mean, we can think of the Herschel Walker when the Saints give up all of their picks for him. Or, what was it? Who they give up all their picks for? For Ricky Williams?
Yeah.
Mike Dicker, Saints gave up all their picks. That was a rash one. Yeah. And then everybody who got traded for Herschel Walker.
Then there was the Washington RG3 thing.
That was kind of standard for moving up to number one. You kind of went a little over the top, but you didn't give up a player that was definitively better than RG3 at his position,
right?
To move up to one. That would have been like you give up, that'd have been like someone giving up Josh Allen, trading Josh Allen for Tua. Like, Tua's a good quarterback, but he's injury prone. He has problems being on the field. He's an accurate quarterback. He can win some games. But if Buffalo was so pissed off at Josh Allen, they're like, you know what, Miami? Give us Tua and a few draft picks. We'll see you, Josh Allen. That's how ridiculous it is. Because I know people don't really think about the basketball terms. Like, to me, it feels that ridiculous.
Okay. So I was thinking about this. That's funny. So Jaylen Brown and Brad Stevens. There's a part of me, and
it's crazy.
And I don't want to pick on the city of Boston because I do that enough. But you know what I'm saying? But I think we're at the point of Jaylen Brown got to a point of the audacity, you know what I'm saying? Like, of you being, you know, and you guys can fill in what I'm saying here. You know, the audacity
this
of
Negro think he's smarter than all of us. Let's get him out of here.
All right. Well, that wasn't what I anyway. So Brad Stevens has been talking about how you can't build a team around two guys that are taking up, you know, 70% of your cap. Duh, but you signed them in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So second of all, this guy won a finals MVP just 2 years ago. So this ain't a situation where I got to go all the way back to 2019 or 2021 Giannis to say that this person did this thing. So they just basically chose Jason Tatum over him. And that's okay. That's okay. But you got it. But it's the way that you go about it. It's a certain respect because you had this man in trade talks for Kevin Durant, who was up in the infirmary at the time that y'all were having these discussions. So it's not as if you were having talks like, can we get Luka? Can we get James Harden? Can we get Embiid? Y'all weren't having those type of well, I guess Embiid's not even a good one. But but the point being is that y'all had this man who was nothing but a quiet soldier that kept his head down, came to work, and did his thing. Now, Jason Tatum coming back from injury, and obviously you have a proven system that works. Because you and I both, when Jason Tatum came back, it was like, oh, hey, the East is in trouble. So there was nobody really sitting around going, oh, why did Boston bring back Jason Tatum? Those two can't work out together. It was an expectation of excellence because that's all they've given us. From the moment that they were put together and making conference finals, they had Kyrie on their team. He got hurt, still made the conference finals without him. You know what I'm saying? When they were babies. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, to borrow something from Mr. Logical, don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. So let's get to the other part of this. So Paul George. I'm not as down on this as everybody else is. The only problem that I have with it.
Elaborate why you're not down on it, though.
I'm about to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So when Kawhi and Paul George got together, I used to always come on here and say, that's the West version of Brown and Tatum. The only difference was Kawhi, being the Jaylen Brown of the situation, was better than the Tatum of the situation. You know what I'm saying? So now when you combine that talking to now, you give Jason Tatum a guy who can do the things that Jason Tatum does, which takes a little bit of responsibility away from the standpoint of Jason Tatum has been relied on to be the facilitator, to be the rebounder, to do the little things. Jaylen Brown's job was be aggressive, score, play good defense. Jason Tatum's job was do that and everything else. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think the responsibilities was divided that much. I don't think it was like a 65-35% responsibility.
Maybe not 65-35, but maybe 55-45.
I think Tatum looked like the new wave because we always talked about Paul George being, sorry to cut you off, but Paul George being like, if you had to draw and design a basketball player for this current wave of basketball, Paul George and Kawhi about the same height. I mean, Paul George and like Carmelo Anthony about the same height, but moves a little better. He moves like a 6'3", 6'4" guard, but he's like 6'8" or 6'9". Tatum was like the new rendition of the Paul George. We talked about that forever because if you could play that small ball like San Antonio wanted to play, they played with like a bunch of 6'7" guys, a couple of 6'5" guys, and a 7'4" guy. But the thing that Paul George has, first of all, he has a lot of years in the league, but not a lot of evidence to show I come up big in big moments. You don't, like, for me, I don't think winning a championship is an end-all, be-all because only one team can win it. And even the guys who win it, sometimes the final MVP doesn't play as great as the season they had. There's been outliers, Jalen Brunson this year, but you talk about Jalen Brunson the first couple of games, didn't look great. But can you get it done in those moments when you are 21 for 61 in your first couple of games and then close out game 5 with 45 points? That's the Paul George we have never seen.
And I think that's the Paul George that you don't. I think that's the Paul George you don't need. You need Paul George, who is a 39% three-point shooter, to come into this offense that does nothing but launch threes and hit threes like he has been. Dribble the ball a little bit to keep Tatum from having to do it the majority of the game. So I don't think you're not asking Paul George to replace Jaylen Brown in a lot of ways. You're not saying give me the 28 points that
liability.
No, definitely. There's definitely an injury issue. Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Just even healthy, but even fully healthy, I just don't see. I don't see I don't see an Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals run that Jaylen Brown had in those. What was it? Probably 6 games, and then they won a championship in 5, I believe.
Yeah.
So something like that. So like those, we'll
11
call it
games.
8 to 10 games. That stretch, we've never seen that from Paul George. Anything like that. Anything close to
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think you need it. You know what I mean?
But he's been on teams where he's needed to be that guy.
And this is a team that he doesn't need to be that guy because, like Peyton Pritchard is getting better every year. Dirk White is providing some defense, and he makes plays in big moments. Not necessarily the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, which you want to see them make, but he plays big in the clutch. You know what I mean? They went and got Mitchell Robinson to help on the boards. So I'm not saying, first of all, let me pause for a second. Yeah. I am by no means saying that the Boston Celtics are a contender. I am by no means saying that the Boston Celtics are going to win the East or should be the favorite.
I think only getting one player is not a good move.
You know what I'm saying? No, that's the problem. That's the
problem.
You know what I mean? Because they could have got a lot more, I'm sure.
They should have got VJ.
I ain't going to say a lot more because you ain't giving up VJ for him.
But that's the thing. Then we got nothing to talk about.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't have made the deal, especially but that adds on to the disrespect. I'm sending you right down I-95, and I might see you in May.
Yeah, it's definitely a very flawed and crippled dynamic. But I didn't like the trade because those future picks, man, those picks could be 27. Those picks can be mixing with another deal. Like it's so many things that can happen with those picks that I just feel if I'm Boston, I got to get VJ in the deal, or I want Maxey and somebody else. Like I don't understand how like Paul George is the guy that you wanted initially when you have Maxey. I would have wanted Maxey and those picks, or Paul George and VJ with one less pick.
So a lot of times,
if I was Boston, but that's why I feel like not even disrespect. I think it just was like that relationship was shattered, and it was completely shattered.
So a lot of times, there was
right? No into it.
And I don't mean no disrespect when I say this. I promise. You know what I mean? But I think that a lot of people, or at least they view themselves as, to some degree, Boston has 2 Jordans. Realistically, Boston had 2 Pippins. And it just worked out well because they were able to play off of one another. They were able to function off of one another and be interchangeable at times. So I think that Paul George, from an idea standpoint, I'm talking about, brings that because him and Tatum, their skill sets are more similar than Brown and Tatum's are. So that's what you're missing is some of the things that Brown brought to the table. But I think the idea is Jason Tatum, go out here and do the things that we think you can do. Go wreck shop. And this person is going to take a little bit of that load off because like I said, because Jason Tatum was the facilitator, he was the leading rebounder a lot of times. So you're telling Paul George, like, I need you to be 3-point shooter, initiate so Tatum can freelance a little bit more. And Tatum stop taking all these damn fadeaway threes.
He's going to keep doing it. Like I said, for me, I'd look at it like this. The trade's already happened, obviously.
Yeah.
If you could think of 5 trades that you feel would be better than straight up Jaylen Brown for Paul George. If like right now, just off the top of your head, just you might think of 5 better.
I would have went and tried to get Drew Holiday. You know what I mean? Back. I would have went and got him back. I would have made the Giannis deal. I would have called Miami and see what's up. I would have went and got Aaron Gordon.
Now I'm talking about for Jaylen Brown straight up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Jaylen Brown for Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, why not? Just throw some picks in it.
Nah, that's what I'm saying.
Or okay, Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown. Fuck it.
I would have gone Jaylen Brown. I would have called Oklahoma City. Yo, let me get Chet. Like I would have wanted like a real.
But that's the problem. But that's the problem. But that's the problem.
I mean, the money has to make sense.
Well,
too,
no,
but
not that part of it. But given what Boston gave up, but you have to remember too, being what Boston got shows you potentially the value that he had around the league. There might not have been a team that was willing to come off of X, Y, and Z to make that deal happen.
What team right now, off the top of your head, could get that phone call and be like, "Nah, we good with our star"? Phoenix, no.
Well, Houston, we talked about Mobley already. You know what I'm saying? Like they were supposed to be Mobley.
Dallas with Cooper Flag, yeah.
They were supposed to be Mobley for Jaylen Brown. That obviously didn't materialize.
That wouldn't have worked anyway because you got him and Donovan Mitchell play the same way.
So then you had LeBron and James Harden. Never mind, we ain't gotta get back into all that. But anyway, but
LeBron could do other stuff. Like I think Jaylen Brown and Donovan Mitchell kind of play exactly the same way.
So I think
different heights.
But I think that if I put it like this, if Boston could have got a better deal, they would have. I put it like that because it wasn't like free agency opened and they traded him that night.
That's what I mean. I think this the
But it's their fault.
Yeah, it's their fault for keep putting them in trade rumors. But you couldn't have called New Orleans and got Zion straight up for Jaylen Brown.
I'm not doing that.
Like I just feel like you could have gotten. You couldn't have got at least get me a star in his 20s. Like any star in the league in their 20s. Because you got LaMelo Ball. If you knew you had him in the mix for the last 2 or 3 years, to include the bookend of his NBA championship, NBA Finals run, you knew you had him in conversations. You couldn't call Charlotte. That's what I mean. Is like that's the part that I don't understand. Is like, why am I giving up a guy who's not 30 yet, very young, very athletic, no major injury history, very smart? Why am I giving him up for a guy that literally just got suspended last year for PEDs and every other year has been kind of marred with injuries and this scathing expose of being unavailable? That's the part I don't get. Even if it's like the market was there for Jaylen Brown, why did I still end up with a guy that might not even be available?
Well, part of that as well is trying to get under that second apron too, which is probably some of what Brad Stevens was talking about. But hey, we were talking about the Lakers. Now free agency has kind of settled down. Austin Reeves gave back $5 million, so 4 years, $180. They went and got Walker Kessler for 4 years, $130, and a trade kicker. They picked up Zaire Williams yesterday. DeAndre Ayton out, Luke Kennard out, Rui out, Marcus Smart is in Houston. So I'm sure I missed somebody, but that's just off the top of the dome.
Yeah, I think Bronny's still there.
So how are we looking at the Lakers going into this season?
You're gonna get beat to the hoop. You won't be able to outscore your opponents, and your defense and your ability to defend guys in space has been hampered substantially. And you got rid of you didn't bring in anybody that's going to create a defensive advantage for you. You just got to hope that Luka can go to that NBA Finals Dallas version of himself for a whole season. Because I don't think you put yourself in a position to where, because Austin Reeves is a good basketball player. Luka's a great basketball player. But if you just let the two of them do their thing, you can win all these games against the Lakers 111 to 98. See what I'm saying? It's like you didn't create like a dynamic. They won't be able to guard. It's that simple. They won't be able to guard on the perimeter. They won't be able to guard at the rim. I think they're going to get out-athleted in so many different positions, game in and game out. I think they're just going to get – I think teams are just going to run on them. They don't have a coach that's really adaptable and makes adjustments because they don't have the experience to. I think it's going to be a lot of what they've been dealing with the last few years. They have to play perfect offensive basketball to put pressure on the other team. But if they go down in the first quarter 28-21 after the first quarter, it's going to be a lot of those games where Luka's playing 6 to 8 more minutes than he should play.
So, at least they improved from the standpoint of what happens once you get to the basket. Walker Kessler will send it into the crowd, So I think the Lakers just basically tried to do, hey, Western Kentucky, that's my alma mater.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Lakers tried to build what Luka had in Dallas, it seems like. Like they tried to build almost a carbon copy of that team. The big man that is going to block shots, catch some lobs, take up space. You got Reeves beside him as the scoring guard that can play that Jalen Brunson role, even though he'll be a starter versus coming off the bench. So I like it from that standpoint of comfortability. But I don't like giving up all the picks that they gave up, first of all. But this is the Lakers that we're talking about. They're going to assign somebody at some point. I don't think that they end up with a much different record than this past season. I think they're still in the same win range. I just think that when they get to the playoffs, it's not going to be as successful because, one, they're not going to have the certain level of continuity that they had, and two, that defense is going to get exposed. So from that standpoint, I agree with you. Couple weeks later, Ja Morant to Portland, for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, good deal for Portland. They still got Dame, still got Scoot, still got Shaedon Sharp.
How are we going to do with all these guards that are under 6'3"?
Still got Drew.
With the lame duck, you have a lame duck coach. You got a cheap owner, and then you have a bunch of undersized guys who, if you think about the top, just think about the top teams in the West, or the teams that we think should be at the top. Okay. OKC, they're all big.
Spurs.
LA, Spurs, Minnesota. So just those 4 teams. Even if we throw in New Orleans, like they're all like big teams. You have like big guards, big small forwards that handle the ball a lot, and then you run it out there with undersized, physically vulnerable Ja Morant, older
Minnesota.
Dame Lillard. Yeah, like I'm saying. So it's like you have guys, they have like real size on their teams, and you're running out with these small guards. Jalen Brunson really shout out to the Knicks for just breaking down the mental fabric of all these GMs and having them rebuild and stuff to the point where like none of it makes sense to us, and we're sitting in our houses in 2 different states because there's one Jalen Brunson. Just like for a long time it was one Isaiah before Steph came along. And now Jalen Brunson, what he did in this playoff run, you can't replicate that.
So,
and the Knicks had a real solid team. Like, yeah, Portland just I think that guy's just hiding money, and he's using the team to move it around, and he'll sell it by the end of 2028. By 2028 season tip off, they'll have a different owner in Portland.
So, Jalen Duren's still not signed. Detroit says that they're going to match whatever somebody offers him. So I don't know if he's a casualty of the whole LeBron stalling game thing where once LeBron signs, you're going to start seeing the deals fly through. I don't imagine Detroit is a contender to land LeBron. So what's the issue here?
They probably don't want to pay him. You ever see the podcast episode with Jeff Teague on Club 520, and he talked about how when he was leaving Atlanta, Milwaukee offered him like 4 years, $80 million or something. and he told the GM Danny Ferry at Atlanta, like, listen, I'm staying here. Don't sign me. Don't match this deal. I don't like the way you walk. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way your hair looks. I don't like the way you wear your pants. And he said everything he could. And then Danny Ferry got on the phone and was like, all right, see you back in Atlanta. They matched the offer. That's all they're waiting on. They're waiting on somebody who can offer him less than what Detroit can offer because he didn't show up in the playoffs. But he is still a viable talent. But I can't give you the max. I'm going to give you what somebody else offers you.
I'm just trying to figure out what they're doing because, they let Tobias walk. They basically let Beef Stew walk. You know what I mean? There's still moves to be made here. They brought in Isaiah Joe. And this is the one seed that we're talking about in the East. They brought in Isaiah Joe. They brought back Kevin Huerter for some reason, who they didn't even play to begin with. Yeah. And so I don't know what the plan here is. Like, I guess maybe you trade a Ron Holland at some point.
They watched their playoff recap, and they watched the clip of our show when you said, I don't know where their scoring is going to come from. And now they're just trying to figure out, how do we get buckets? I think by keeping defensive rebounders on your team and offensive rebounders is probably the easiest way to get buckets. Because if you watch the Spurs and the NBA Finals, they didn't have a lot of guys who specialize in offensive rebounds. But if you watch the Knicks, they did. So it's just a matter of teams.
And they lost their best one to Boston. But, and I don't know why the Spurs.
They're looking at philosophies and executing the wrong one.
I don't know why the Spurs brought in Tobias Harris. That's one of the moves that I feel, I don't want to say it's wasted because you are bringing a veteran in, who we remember 2 years ago in the playoffs, he was giving Cat a rough time on defense. So, like, he has value. I don't want to make it sound like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like he wasn't necessary for the Spurs.
I think he's a little bigger. I think he goes around 6'8", 6'9". I think he could be the guy next to Wemby to get the rebounds. Because I talked about it ad nauseum during that finals run. I think you could bring him and Cornette in and have some size and still be able to defend. Whereas, like, they were bringing in Cornette with no other player was like 6'8" or 6'9". He just was kind of out there dolo. Like, he was out there with De'Aaron Fox or Keldon Johnson.
So do you think that Tobias Harris is an OG but more Wand than Anunoby?
I think what he'll be able to provide especially if he does what I thought they were lacking, I think it makes sense.
So a couple of teams I got beef with. You know what I'm saying? Why the Nuggets don't do nothing? Like, I remember back in the day, there was this video of Dipset getting chased through the Rucker. And, there was this thing going around, Dips don't do nothing. The Nuggets don't do nothing. They ain't brought Peyton Watson back. They ain't trade Christian Brown or somebody. Like, what are the Nuggets doing? Jokic had $63 million on the table, and he didn't sign the extension. So he could become a free agent after next year. I don't know if they're really in danger of losing Jokic. But if I'm the Nuggets, I ain't necessarily trying to find out either. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what are we doing?
Only place you're going to lose Jokic to is to his horse farm in Serbia. Like, he's not suiting up for another team. So they know they have him until he decides to retire.
I mean, I guess bringing in Tyus Jones and Marvin Bagley is something. They waived Valanciunas. Okay, so
sometimes it's like, if it's basketball is chemistry, basketball is IQ, it's fit, and when you make a lot of moves, they tend to not really work out. Like, it takes a lot. So I figure if I have continuity, I think continuity can win you games. Look at the Knicks. The Knicks.
But think about everything that you said earlier. Think about everything that you said earlier. Like, speaking about depth, for example. One, they don't play their players. That's one. You know what I mean? So you had Aaron Gordon the last two playoffs go down with injury. DeRon Holmes, you drafted him 2 years ago coming off of an ACL or an Achilles, and, he hasn't played a lot. Peyton Watson, who you're trying to invest all this money into allegedly in this free agency, guess what he did? Didn't really play in the playoffs. Then you got Jamal Murray, who had the best year of his career. So you're literally still Murray and Jokic. You know what I mean? Bruce Brown's a free agent. You already lost Hardaway to Miami. So, I think that you're too close on the brink. You just took OKC to 7 the year that they won the championship. And here you are less than 2 full years later, and you ain't no closer to the championship. So I'm not saying go out here and trade, for, I don't know, Mikal Bridges or something, or just do something often, but do something. And then the Pelicans.
I think sometimes I don't think everyone has to do something.
I think you do. No, I'm not talking about everyone. I'm talking about a team that took OKC to Game 7. I'm not talking about the Clippers need to go do something. I'm not talking about the Atlanta Hawks need to go. Well, they did need to go get a big man. But I ain't talking about the Sacramento Kings need to do something or the Nets need to do something. I'm talking about a team that took OKC to 7 2 years ago when they won the title. This past year, they were one of the favorites, not just because I picked them, but they were one of the favorites to, everybody thought it was going to be them and OKC again, before San Antonio emerged. So we're talking about OKC is out here now, even in the draft, even though it might not mean a lot on paper, they went and got Bennett Sturts. They went and got another 7'3" dude. You know what I mean? And the Nuggets ain't did nothing.
I think they're just prepared to run it back. I think they trust their continuity.
Well, prepare to go home early again. You know what I mean? And then you got the Pelicans, right?
There's always trades to be made during the season.
They brought back DeAndre Jordan. And, you know what I mean? They let Kevon Looney go. They've been trying to trade Trey Murphy. He's the new Miles Turner. They've been trying to trade him for the last 3 years. And here's a piece of advice for New Orleans. They wanted 3 first-round picks for Trey Murphy. First of all, you ain't getting that. Second of all, if he has all the teams interested in all the things that you think, maybe you should keep him. Maybe you should build around him instead of dangling him out there, or just trade him and get him out of there. You know what I mean?
All these philosophies make sense. You just have to make it work. Because at the end of the day, the talent level and the disparity between Jordan Poole, DeJounte Murray, Ja Morant, and Paul George and all those other players, these guys aren't leaps and bounds better than each other. They're pretty much all even. It's not like there's 2 or 3 guys in the league averaging 38 points and then everybody else is around 27. The top guys are normally within a few points of each other because the talent isn't that far. Can you make the team work? And the only way to know if you can make the team work is if you have the right people calling the shots from the front office to the bench and you got the players there. I think too often these teams moving all these players. Portland keeps moving all these players and you end up with the same type of player because it's I got 2 guards that are 6'2". Now I got to go get the backup who's pretty much the same size so I can keep running the same thing. You're just in this cycle of, I don't know, just mediocrity.
And I do like the rookies that they drafted last year. I do like Fears and I do like Queen, and I think they'll be okay down the road, but it's going to take a little bit longer than I initially thought. But, I just don't know, who gave Joe Dumars another job? AJ DeBoncha, I don't know. Summer League's going on. His numbers don't look that different than Cooper Flagg's in Summer League last year. The game don't necessarily look the same because, I think that Cooper is more deliberate in his action. So I'm interested to see because there's been rumors that the AJ and Keyshawn George are going to have more of a ball handling responsibility than you would think on a team with Trae Young to
That
allow
doesn't make
Trae Young
sense
to
at
be
all.
more to allow Trae. Well, first of
To do
all,
what?
giving Trae Young 4 years, $212.8 million don't make sense.
Just to take the ball out of his hand makes less sense.
You know what I mean? And then you still got to figure out what you're going to do with Anthony Davis. But, Darren Peterson looks competitive. He looks like he's got a little bit of fire in him that we were hoping to see. I think Boozer looks about how I thought he would. I think that he's going to be a productive player that just does a little bit of everything. Hugo Gonzalez, he's been looking real good during Summer League. Now, of course, you can't take all the stock into Summer League, right? Because what was it? Darius Acuff went 9 for 29 his first game, and some anonymous GM said something along the lines of he's doing this against guys that are going to be driving Uber next week.
Yeah.
So you can't take everything with a grain of salt. But is there anybody that you think Summer League could help, or any players that needed Summer League more than others?
I'm not sure if a lot of these guys needed it because, like you said, it's a lot of guys who are career G League guys who maybe come from smaller Division 2 or 3 basketball schools, get an opportunity. But I think a guy like Caleb Wilson is showing that he's after it, but I don't know if that translates to the hardwood with the NBA players defending him because getting pushed around, getting pushed off of screens. Is he going to have the ultimate green light in Chicago that he has in Summer League? So I think it all will look different. Darren Peterson, I think he's going to fill in nicely in Utah.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect fit.
The problem, like I said, the problem for Utah is just that I don't think they have long-term winning plans. I think they have short-term entertainment plans, and they just want to make sure they sell out their 41 home games because they just don't feel like a team that's made moves how many years to make a good deep playoff, not even a deep playoff run, but just be in the running to make the playoffs. I don't know the last time that happened and how it looked when it happened.
Okay. I think that we're at a point where Caleb Wilson, he came out, he hit 7 threes in that first game, which I believe was how many threes he hit at North Carolina last year, which is interesting. But allegedly, he's been working with shooters. My guy, my sleeper Malik Thomas, leading the Summer League in scoring. 35 points in one of the games. Looking like he might challenge for some bench minutes. So I was thinking about this when it comes to Summer League. At what point, if you're a team, do you see something at Summer League? So this is more for the second year players, maybe third year player if he's still playing. At what point do you go, you know what, this just ain't the guy?
Well, I think you gotta look at their individual growth. If you had a guy in your organization for a couple of years and you wanted him to work on perimeter defense, shot selection, shot making,
okay,
that's something you can work at. You can get with the staff, you can work at on your own, and then if you come back out and you're still shooting 41% from the floor and you were shooting 43 last year, and it's okay, you didn't even work at this. Because if you work at it, there should be some improvement. But like I said, it's not a good gauge for the G League just because it's a lot of guys that aren't going to be on rosters. So the Summer League. So the Summer League is just another expo for these young guys to showcase, keep us talking about the NBA. Because it's rare that a guy's come out in Summer League and drop 50 and then they put him on a roster. That guy still goes to the G League. He still goes, becomes a journeyman, or like you say, he just goes back to maybe playing overseas or something. So I think the Summer League is just more of an expose for the guys that just got drafted. just kind of having this little showcase for them. And then we roll into NFL conversation. The NBA is kind of out of it for a while, and then the NBA starts.
Well, I'm interested to see Malawatch this year. It's the little things, right? Like, he didn't blow me away with his offensive prowess or anything like that, but he just looked confident. The way he was setting screens, just being in the mix, like inviting the contact. Because he didn't play a lot this season. So it's easy to kind of just go out there, kind of loaf around a little bit. Because Summer League is some of the most trash product of anything I've watched. You know what I mean? It's like legit. It's like worse than being in a pickup gym at an Air Force base. You know what I mean? Like, it's just unorganized, unstructured. Just
a lot of guys that got thrown together pretty recently, probably limited practices, and then you have a star who plays a couple of games. You get the buzz. Like, I think you got Dominican LeBron.
Yeah,
I think he might have carved out of space.
Hey, he might have made Jimmy Butler. He might have.
Well, once again, like I said, you gotta see it. I gotta see it. Not like I have to validate what these guys do, but
right.
As a team, as a management, you gotta see how does the guy react when they blitz him the way they blitz Steph Curry, when they blitz you to get the ball at your hand, or they force you to go left into a trap on the sideline. Like, we got to see all of that stuff, because Summer League, like you said, you're playing against guys who won't be around. But I think OKC and they hit on their swings, like every swing with Chet, J-Dub, obviously SGA back-to-back MVPs, NBA Finals MVP and a championship. And then all those trades they made, the Paul George trade, the Carmelo Anthony, all these trades and all these moves they made that allowed them to kind of just keep plucking these guys out that fit their scheme. I think more out of Michigan. I think that's going to be a good pick. I think he moves a lot like Zach Edey. So I'm not sure how much he's going to get, because we talk about the Lakers and those guys not being very, quick-footed. But in spurts, can I put Chet on the bench for a few minutes and have you out there with Hardenstein? And we're just cleaning up the glass from the 8:30 mark to the 4:30 mark in the second quarter, where there's no easy shots in the paint and very few offensive rebound opportunities for the other team. Yeah, I think that's a viable way of, kind of building a team. So the teams that stuck to their guns and they sucked for a few years and they let go of the dead weight, I think those teams will turn around. I think I'm optimistic about Washington. I know you're not a big fan of the 212, but I'm optimistic there because I think they can. I think with the Knicks mania kind of creating the Knicks mania, these big contracts that guys are signing, like LaMelo Ball was probably, I think he was going to be due for something, hence why he got moved out west. So I think right now with Washington having their young core to kind of build around, with a pass first, very confident point guard, I think they can make some things shake. If they can figure it out defensively and they can get, squeeze as much as they can out of their young stars and their number one pick, I can see them making a move. But they were willing to kind of suck for a few years and to try it out and to try the Jordan Poole deal and try Westbrook and try insert foreign player, try Gonzaga player. Like, they were willing to go for it. Like, hey, we're not going to be very good, but can we go for it? I think Brooklyn's in that same boat. It's like, all right, we're not going to be very good for a while, but can we accumulate? Can we grow any of the talent we have here? Can we turn any of these seeds into roses? That's going to be the kicker, because sometimes I think teams kind of get ahead of themselves and give up a little too soon on the talent that they have.
And then last thing before we get out of here, I just saw something that I wanted to just throw out there real quick. So we started the show talking about LeBron.
Correct.
So there's been a couple of things I've seen today saying look out for Indiana to emerge as a contender for his services. What say you?
I don't know.
Halliburton back, Siakam, Zubac, Neesmith, Nembhard.
Not this LeBron.
NBA
That's
Finals 2 years ago.
That's too much. I think that's too much work for him right now to make that work. Considering they just won like 16 games last year and they were just missing Halliburton. Boston still was like top 3 in the East without Jason Tatum. So it was like, you can't fall off that much because you miss one guy and then
top 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So on that note, said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Sports Reports Disorder. He is the one and only world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected. Unless we talked about LeBron James, Jay-Z, saying like security,
tanking,
tanking, punishment.
Saying? I get a little animated.
He was born in Texas, raised in VA, representing everything New Jerusalem, even the Devils, but not in that way. He is Mr. Logical. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I go by the name of 2-5, and guess what? I got more in me than what Conor McGregor got. Pause. You know what I'm saying? We will be back on Friday with an ACC preview. It's time to get into that college football, y'all. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? Seminoles. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Soundboard popping.
You know what I'm saying? But hey, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. We love y'all. See you in a few days. Hopefully next time we see you, LeBron will have a new team. Sports Reports is ordered. Sports Reports is ordered. Out.
Hey. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up.